Good afternoon and welcome to this council meeting for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. It is October 8, 2025, and I will call this meeting to order. Randy, if you would get started, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Pemberton, if you would give the land acknowledgement, please.
We will begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have long-standing relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. We also acknowledge the local Lower Thames River watershed communities, which include Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moravian Town. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and all of the original peoples of Turtle Island, North America. We are thankful for the opportunity to live, learn, and share with mutual respect and appreciation.
Okay, thank you. I would remind council of any declaration of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. The adoption of the draft minutes, they were included in your agenda package. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, the minutes will be adopted as presented to council in their agenda package. Brandy, are there any items not listed on the agenda?
There are none.
Okay. And item 6 is planning. And go ahead, Randy, get us started, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drouillard, that the regular meeting end to sit as a committee of adjustment hearing to hear application file MV 0425 filed by Roland Kretschmer at 5:02 p.m. Moved by Drouillard, seconded by Dryfout, that the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for Minor Variance Application file MV 0425 filed by Roland Kretschmer opens at 5:02 p.m. All in favor?
Okay, thank you. And the minutes for September 10th were also included. I see no questions on that. They will be adopted as presented to council. Okay, this is a public hearing. I will call this Committee of Adjustment hearing to order. This application for a minor variance pursuant to section 45(1) of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended, is required for the following reasons. To grant relief from section 4.539 of the municipality zoning bylaw to permit an additional residential unit with a maximum gross floor area of 86.6% of the primary dwelling unit, GFA, where typically this is limited to 60%. The subject lands are located at 32774 Aaron Line. Does any member of council have a disclosure of interest concerning the proposals? Seeing none. Randy, what method of notice and when was this notice given to the public for this meeting?
A sign was posted on the subject property prior to the September 28th, 2025 deadline, and notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property prior to the September 28th, 2025 deadline.
Okay, thank you. Now I see former planner Tracy, but I don't think you're giving this report. Good to see you, Tracy. Mike from County Planning, are you?
Yes,
You're with us?
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, go
great.
ahead with your report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So yes, I will give a brief presentation and then of course be available to answer any questions afterwards. The property tonight, the approximately 30-hectare site, is located on the north side of Aaron Line, about 1 kilometer west of Iona Road. The property generally contains a residential dwelling, agricultural lands, vegetation and conservation lands, as well as 2 accessory buildings, including the garden suite that is the subject of this afternoon's application. The site is surrounded by vegetated lands to the north, recreational campground to the east, and agricultural residential properties to both the south and west. First, it's valuable to have a brief background on the application. The site was previously subject to a temporary zoning amendment in 2020, which permitted the construction of the garden suite on the property for a period of up to 20 years. The owners have now decided that they would like to make the garden suite a permanent feature as a detached additional residential unit. However, in reviewing the provisions for the ARU, it was identified that the garden suite has a gross floor area of just under 87%, as you mentioned, of the primary dwelling, where the bylaw typically limits that to 60%. So as a result, the variance was required. As with all variances, we look to the 4 tests of the Planning Act to evaluate the request. The first test asks if the variance maintains the intent of the official plan. The property here is designated agricultural area in the Elgin County official plan and agricultural in the Dutton Dunwich plan. Additional residential units are permitted in both official plans, where the county OP requires that the units do not interfere with the surrounding farm operations and comply with any MDS calculations, that they do not remove workable agricultural lands and are appropriately serviced. The local OP similarly requires adequate servicing, as well as adequate open space, no negative impacts to stormwater management and drainage, and must maintain the overall character of the area. So in this instance, the property is connected to municipal water and the garden suite has a private septic system in place. The 30-hectare lot provides ample open space for both the primary and additional dwelling units and is large enough to manage any stormwater and drainage matters. The structure is located approximately 140 meters north of the public right-of-way behind an existing tree stand, where it has no perceivable effect on the character of the property, nor any meaningful effect on surrounding lands, which are located a minimum of 160 meters from the garden suite. The lands that were used for the garden suite were not workable agricultural lands, and there are no active farm operations that necessitate the MDS calculation. So it's staff's opinion that the intent of the OP is maintained. The second test asks whether the variance maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. The lands are zoned agricultural A1 zone with the site-specific temporary zoning permission, which was related to the garden suite. The bylaw generally permits additional residential units, and with respect to the size limitations, detached units like this are typically limited in size for a number of reasons. That includes ensuring that the ARU remains accessory and subordinate to the primary dwelling, that it limits the potential for subdivision of the land, maintains the character of the property, and limits impacts to servicing and infrastructure. So in this case, the structure is located, as I mentioned, behind a fairly considerable tree stand, which limits the view of the structure from the public realm. The ARU is located on a relatively large lot and already benefits from a mix of municipal and private servicing. So we recognize that the dwelling presents no issues with respect to servicing and infrastructure, and owing to its location on the lot, has no impact on the character of the property. An important detail is that a significant portion of the excess gross floor area comes from the fact that there is a loft level within the garden suite, which contributes to the GFA. However, the footprint of the building remains relatively modest, and as such, it's our view that the structure will continue to read as a subordinate building to the main dwelling. Finally, there are strict provincial and official plan policies which prohibit the severance of an additional residential unit from the primary dwelling, and so subdivision of the property is not a concern. As such, staff believe that the intent of the bylaw has been maintained. The next test evaluates whether the variance is an appropriate use of the land. In other words, is the nature and character of the property negatively affected by the variance? So as I mentioned, additional residential units are permitted on the lands, and its location behind a large tree stand, means that it has effectively no bearing on the character of the property. So we agree that it is an appropriate use of the lands. Lastly, the fourth test asks whether the variance is in fact minor, which we always look to determine as a measure of impact of the variance. As the structure has been built and in use since 2020, it's located on a large rural property and is well separated from the primary dwelling as well as surrounding properties. There is no concern for negative impacts to the enjoyment and functioning of the primary dwelling, nor the surrounding properties. So we believe that the variance is in fact minor. So for these reasons, it's staff's view that the request satisfies the 4 tests under the Act, and we recommend granting the requested relief. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike, for that report. Is the owner present? And do you have anything further to add at this time?
Through you, Mr. Chair. My name is Tracy Pilon Abs of Pilon Abs Inc. I'm the planning consultant who's representing the applicant. The applicant is with me this evening as well, in case you do have any questions. But I just wanted to mention that the applicant does agree with the staff recommendation, which is to approve the minor variance, and happy to answer any questions of the committee at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. Do the committee members have any questions on the planning report? No questions. Does the secretary treasurer have any comments from staff?
Yes, summarized in the planner's report.
Did you receive any written submissions on this application?
Yes, summarized in the planner's report.
Okay. Are there any persons present who were notified of this meeting and would like to comment on the application? No one in the gallery and no one online that we know of? Okay. Pretty straightforward. Resolution, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the Committee of Adjustment for the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planning consultant titled Application for Minor Variance 32774 Aaron Line, Dutton Dunwich, dated October 8th, 2025 for information, and that the committee grants relief from Section 453.9 of Zoning Bylaw 2022-50 to permit an additional residential unit with a maximum gross floor area, GFA, of 86.6% of the primary dwelling unit GFA, where typically this is limited to 60%. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. Please be advised that the last day for appealing this decision is October 29, 2025. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the committee in respect to this application, you must submit a written request to the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich Committee of Adjustment. If you are not the applicant, you should request a copy of the decision, since it may be appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal by the applicant or another member of the public. This Committee of Adjustment meeting is now concluded. And please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment to hear minor variance application file MV 0425 filed by Roland Kretschmer closes at 5:12 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Droulard, that the regular meeting, reconvenes at 5:13 p.m. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you. And I think Tracy's left us already. It was good to see you, Tracy.
Thank you. Good to see you guys too. I miss you.
Okay, moving on. We have a delegation. And Sandy Accioni is here. Wishes to speak about the interim control bylaw exemption. I see Sandy there. Sandy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of council. As the mayor said, my name is Sandy Accioni. I own Dutton Land Holdings and Amgen Realty and Akron, which is building the commercial corner. And I'm here this evening as a local developer and longtime supporter of growth and investment in Dutton Dunwich. I have two specific requests this evening that I believe are both practical and beneficial for the community. As you know, we are currently building the commercial corner at Curry and Pioneer. This development has already brought visible progress to the area, and we're now ready to move forward with the final 4,000 square foot building, which will complete the project with 2 additional units. Once finished, this development will generate over $100,000 a year in realty taxes for Dutton and the county, and create over 30 full-time equivalent jobs, many of which will go to local youth. I'm asking council, my first ask tonight is I'm asking council to direct staff to report back at the next meeting with the process that would allow us to proceed with construction in the next 3 to 6 months. And the occupancy permit would be held until the sanitary plant upgrades are completed and confirmed by the chief building official. This approach keeps investment moving forward while fully respecting the sanitary capacity constraints. We would likely start construction in March, but we need the municipality to accept the building permit, process the permit, so that we, in the spring, could start construction of the last building, which we have a tenant for one of the 2 units that are there. So that's my first ask. My second request relates to Bow Place, where 2 lots remain unbuilt. A builder is ready to proceed, 1 home for a customer who's eager to move in by the end of the year, which is going to be tight. We currently have 7 homes nearly complete, and we're prepared to freeze 2 of these homes so that they cannot be connected to the sanitary system until the upgrades are verified by the chief building official. These 2 additional homes will generate development charges, property taxes, and construction employment, bringing much needed economic activity and housing supply at a time when the market is slowing. Accordingly, I respectfully ask the council grant an exemption to the interim control bylaw and direct staff to enter into a freeze agreement for 2 of the 7 homes. And I request the CAO be authorized to substitute the 2 homes that are frozen should we need to switch them with the other 5 in inventory, so a total of 7. Mayor and council, these are modest, measured requests that protect the township's infrastructure interests while allowing investment, housing, and jobs to continue. I truly believe this is a balanced win-win solution that reflects council's ongoing leadership in supporting responsible growth. Thank you for your time and for your continued commitment in helping the community prosper. I'll just recap. 1, regarding the commercial, I'd ask that staff come back at the next meeting with this process on allowing us to submit a building permit. With respect to the 2 lots on Bow Place, I'd respectfully ask that council deal with that this evening, failing which the person that wants to move to Dutton is going to terminate our deal, and that becomes a moot point. We've been working with this person, and there's a local builder, Mike, I'm not sure what his last name, but Jackie knows him. And we always thought we're almost there, we've almost got a solution, we almost have a solution. And she's at her wit's end with our promises and no solutions. So again, I'd respectfully ask if there's a process this evening where council could grant a freeze on 2 of the 7 units we're entitled to connect and allow the 2 last lots on Bow Place to move forward through permitting and ultimately construction. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Sandy, for your delegation. I can't respond too much at this point in the meeting. Any further? Okay. We'll move on. Item 8 is our water and wastewater rate study and financial plan, and Daryl from Watson and Associates is here. Floor is yours, Daryl.
Great. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Pleasure to be here for you this evening. Tonight we have a brief presentation summarizing the work that we've done with the municipality on the water and wastewater rate study calculations. Next slide, please. So we'll talk a little bit about why we're looking at this. We'll talk about the calculations, about the current customers that you have and the anticipated customers you'll have over the next 10 years. We'll talk about the capital expenditures. There are some significant capital expenditures anticipated over the next 10 years, so we'll talk about those, as well as your asset management requirements. The asset management plan was done in 2023 in light of some recent legislative changes, and so we'll talk a bit about how that gets incorporated. Talk about what the proposed rates are and some of the scenarios we ran on the water rate calculation side, and talk about the need for the water financial plan, and wrap up with any questions. Next slide, please. And next slide. And so really the purpose of this is to not just look at what your water and wastewater rate needs are for next year, but what they are for the next 10 years, so that we can try to plan for some changes in the system, right? If we're just looking out next year, but then in 5 or 6 years, we have a large capital expenditure, we're not appropriately saving money for that. And so what we want to do here is we start off with your current operating and capital budgets, and then we prepare a forecast of what those capital and operating budgets will look like over the next 10 years. We look at if we look at the capital projects, how are we going to fund those capital projects, whether it's with debt, whether it's with the existing reserves, or the rates themselves. We take your existing operating budget and forecast that out over the next 10 years, look at your existing rate structure, and then based on that, put all the information together in some spreadsheets and recommend what the new rates should be to provide for financial sustainability. Next slide, please. And so with respect to the legislation surrounding water and wastewater, there's quite a bit since the Walkerton crisis, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with back in the early 2000s. The legislation that has come forward, some of it is in place, some of it's not yet in place. But the main principle of this legislation is full cost recovery. And so they want to make sure that municipalities are putting aside the money, and so they have the money to properly maintain and operate the systems so we don't get another Walkerton. And so when we go through the calculations, when we talk about the proposed rates, we're always keeping in mind that the proposed rates incorporate full cost recovery, all of the infrastructure replacement needs, et cetera. And so on that same vein, when the province brought in the Infrastructure for Jobs and Prosperity Act back in 2015, requiring municipalities to undertake asset management plans. And those asset management plans, yours was done in 2023, coming to 2025, 2026, now need to identify a financial strategy on how you're going to maintain and replace those assets. And so when we've calculated the proposed water rates and the wastewater rates, we're incorporating those needs from that asset management plan into the calculations. Next slide, please. And next slide. And so your current water and wastewater rates, the rate structure you have is the most common rate structure across the province. I would say close to 90% of municipalities that have water and wastewater rates have some component of a fixed base charge, and whether that's charged monthly or quarterly, and then a volume charge based on how much you use. And so you have a quarterly base charge of $62.32 per customer. And on top of that, the customers will pay $2.77 per cubic meter of water used. On the wastewater side, similarly, you have $74.73 per quarter, and then you have $3.25 per cubic meter for the volume of water used. There is a higher volume rate for the service center as well that's been set at $5.61 per cubic meter. Next slide, please. And so you have 1,718 water customers and 737 wastewater customers. Next slide, please. And so what we want to do is understand how that's going to change over time. When we do the water and wastewater rate calculations, we take the costs we need to recover from the users, divide it by the volumes and the customers. So that becomes our denominator. So we would anticipate some growth in the system, understanding that in the short term, there are some challenges with the sanitary system. So we've assumed no growth in the first 3 years, and then we've assumed growth occurring starting in 2028. And so by the end of the 10 years, we'd go from 1,718 water customers up to 1,831. And that would as well correspond to a volume increase from 439,000 or 440,000 cubic meters up to 459,000 cubic meters of water. Next slide, please. On the wastewater side of things, we would look at going from 737 customers up to 850, and from about 188,600 cubic meters of volume up to just under 208,000 cubic meters. Next slide, please. And next slide. So what we did was we started off with the 2025 capital budget, working with staff to gather that information. We took a look at the municipality's 2023 asset management plan, which identified the need for water and wastewater replacements over time. And we have a different slide on that to talk about that more specifically. And as well, we worked to kind of create a forecast of these expenditures. So next slide, please. What we have here is over the 10-year period of $14.3 million worth of capital costs. And you can see the big projects are slated for the end of the forecast for 2035. So we have 11.4 million for the Pioneer supply replacement. That's the water main replacement. And then the water tower replacement of just under 2.5 million. Okay, and so although that's towards the end of the forecast, we still need to start preparing and planning for that eventuality where we need to spend that money. Next slide, please. On the wastewater side of things, the wastewater treatment plant and the pumping station upgrade. This is the interim solution of 6.7 million. And then we also have the portion of the wastewater portion of the rate study here for a total of about $6.7 million. Next slide, please. And so we talk about how we're going to pay for these capital expenditures. And so municipalities only have a certain number of revenue tools at their disposal. And so we've identified funding from reserves. And so with that is the operating budget transfer. So built into the rates is setting money aside into those bank accounts to then pay for those projects. We've identified the need for some debt towards the end of the forecast. Some grants would be applied to the wastewater project. And then you do have capital charges under the Municipal Act, under Part 12 of the Municipal Act for water and wastewater. And that's instead of development charges, we don't have development charges for water and wastewater. Next slide, please. And so if we look at the existing balances in the reserves, you have about $337,000 in water and about $867,000 in wastewater. And I want you to keep those numbers in mind as we start to talk about your asset management needs and the total value of all the assets you have and what you're responsible for replacing over time as it's needed. Next slide, please. And so what we've identified here is about 11.4 million would be needed to fund the Pioneer supply replacement main project through debt. And then the rest of the water projects we've identified coming from the capital reserve fund. So we're going to put money into the bank account to pay for those. And then on the wastewater side of things, we got just under 4.9 million identified for grants, 1.8 million in debt, and then the 15,000 for that rate study from the capital reserve. Next slide, please. And so when we talk about the asset management plan, when we looked at the 2023 plan, you have a total replacement cost of your linear, so your pipes, your water assets, about just under $330 million total value of all those assets. In addition, you have about 1.8 million for water facilities. On the wastewater side of things, we're looking at, if you add those two numbers together, just over $45 million in assets. Okay, so in total, you got 45 million, you got 330, you got $375 million worth of assets. And so when we looked at the asset management plan, what it says is based on some useful life assumptions on these different assets, you should be either spending, so replacing assets, or putting money aside to later replace those assets of about $5 million a year for water and about $1.74 million for wastewater. Now, that number, especially for water, those rates related to that would be unsustainable, especially in the short term. And so I'll show you what we've done, but the aim is to eventually get there, but not even close to get there by the end of the 10 years. By the end of the 10 years, we'll get about a quarter of the way there. And so something to keep in mind is that even with the proposed rates we're identifying, we're still not getting to where the asset management plan says we should. Next slide, please. On the operating budget side, so we start with the operating budget. We forecast most of the expenditures going up by 2% per year. CPI was just released. It was about 1.9. So I think we're hopefully in a normal level of inflationary times. And then for things like utilities, fuel, chemicals, these have always increased at a faster rate. So we've increased them at 5% per year. Next slide, please. And so what this graph does, and this table at the bottom does, is really the numbers at the bottom become what's required to be recovered from the rates. And so it's comprised, if we look at 2026, the operating costs, about 1.66 million. The capital related costs, which is the money we're going to put into the bank accounts to pay for the capital eventually, 210,000. And then we start putting aside some money for life cycle, about 45,000. If you look at the end of the 10-year period, we hit about $900,000 we're putting away each year for life cycle. But again, we need 5 million. So we're only 1/5 of the way there after 10 years. And so what we see here, though, is with the increases in the operating costs, with those capital costs, and as well as building in those life cycle reserve contributions, we go from about 1.9 million we're recovering from the rates to the end of the forecast will be just over 4 million we'll need to be recovering from the rates. Okay, next slide, please. On the wastewater side of things, it's a little bit easier to get to that life cycle requirements, a lot less than on the water side. And so you can see we're actually going to get up to about 868,000 by the end of the 10-year period for life cycle. So we're getting really close to what's required after 10 years. But we're going from about 1 million in recovery next year to about just under 2 million by the end of the 10 years. Next slide, please. And next slide. And so based on what's required, based on that capital forecast operating in those asset management needs, what's proposed in the rate study is an 8% per year increase over the next 10 years for water and 5% for wastewater. And so what that would mean for the rate for next year would go up to $67.31 per quarter plus $2.99 per cubic meter used. And on the wastewater side, $78.47 plus $3.41 per cubic meter used. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like for a typical residential bill. Next slide, please. And so to look at because I understand 8% per year is significant. So what we wanted to do was do some scenario testing. So if we looked at the water rate and we only increased it 5% instead of the 8%, what would that do to your reserve fund balance at the end of the 10 years? And how much would you be able to put away for life cycle? And so when we did the 5% per year, you wouldn't be able to put anything aside for life cycle. It would just get you through the capital plan that you have. And so you wouldn't be putting aside anything. 8% allows us to start putting aside and start increasing. If you went up to 10%, you would be putting aside more and about an average of about 750,000 annually over the 10 years, compared to about 420,000 annually over the 10 years with the 8%. Next slide, please. And so this really just summarizes those savings for life cycle. So with the 5% rate increases, there would be nothing. With the 8% rate increases, you could start to set aside some money and then increase it over time. With those 10% rate increases, you could get to about 1.67 million at the end of the 10 years. Again, understanding that the total that you need to get to is somewhere about $5 million. Next slide, please. And so in that vein, when we're looking at those scenarios and the considerations of what we would propose for the rate increases, we also need to keep in mind your debt capacity limitations. And so the province sets an upper limit, and they say you can spend no more than 25% of your own revenues, that's taxes, user fees, water rates, et cetera, on debt payments. Okay, most municipalities set a target about 15. We would recommend in general, not going over 20% where possible, so that you do have some ability to deal with some economic fluctuations. And so if we take a look at your current level of debt, you're at about 7% of your net revenues. If you were to go to 15%, you'd be able to issue an additional $8.98 million worth of debt. But what we see is when we get to the end of this 10-year forecast and you have to issue debt for the Pioneer line replacement, that puts you up at about 17% of that 25% limit. So you're starting to use a lot of the debt capacity here. And again, this is just for water and wastewater. You have other services that you provide that you need to maintain some debt capacity flexibility for. And then if we were to consider that you have a future expansion of about 20 to 32 million of the wastewater system, that would completely take all of your debt capacity. So you need some other, that's either further into the future or you need some other financial arrangements to finance that. Okay, so that's kind of why and how we landed on those scenarios 5, 8, and 10, and why we were recommending the 8. Next slide, please. And so when we looked at the average residential bill, so residential home in a subdivision, for example, would use about 170 cubic meters per year. And so what that means today in 2025, their bill is about $1,571 for the year. Next year, that would increase by $100 to $1,671 for the year. And so that's when you combine the water and the wastewater increase of 8 and 5%, it gives you an average of about 6.3% increase. And so over the forecast period, the overall average increase is about 6.5% per year. Next slide, please. And so just to give you an idea of how that compares to neighboring communities, you can see with the orange arrow, that's where your current rate is. And then each of the next arrows are the different scenarios we chose. So for the water and wastewater to increase at 5%, you'd be at that first arrow from the orange. The darker pink arrow is the recommended, and then the 10% rate increases on water would be the furthest left arrow. And so you can see, going to the 8%, it would move you higher than Southwold and Bayham. But keep in mind, they're also going to be going through similar processes and increasing their rates. So I would say you're probably going to be in the same relative position, even with an 8% rate increase, unless they choose to not increase rates. But given the high inflationary environment we've just been in the last few years, I would say that's probably not likely. Next slide, please. Okay, and next slide. So with respect to the financial plan, so you'll see in the package, there's 2 reports. There's the water and wastewater rate study report, and then there's the water financial plan. And so all municipalities that provide water services need to submit a financial plan as part of their application to renew their license. Next slide, please. And let's just go next slide. Next slide. Okay. So really, the main difference between these 2 documents is we take the rate study document, which looks at a future forecast, modified cash basis approach. And then we take that and we translate it into accounting, and we do forward-looking financial statements. So it's all the same information, just in accounting terms, because that's what's required for the provincial submission. Okay. And next slide. And with that, that ends my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Daryl, for that presentation. A lot of information. I'm sure there's comments or questions from council. Now's your opportunity. Where you covered it so good, Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Through you. Thanks, Daryl. Yeah, a lot of information there. I guess one question. You mentioned it kind of at the beginning, the collection through DCs, and obviously we know we don't have DCs for water and wastewater. We have just connection fees. I didn't see in the forecasting where those connection fees were built into that. So are they, would that give us a little bit more money, or am I missing something there, or?
Through the mayor, if you give me 1 sec, I have the report here on my device. Just want to double check. So I believe, so in the, so for example, in wastewater is the easiest one to get to if you flip all the way to the last page of the rate study report. There is under the revenue section, there's a connection charges, and that's what those are, connection charges.
Okay, sorry, I must have missed that.
No, not a problem.
So
It probably would have been clear if we said part 12 connection charges, but
So are you saying that connection charges would go up with the 5% a year as well? Is that in the numbers?
yeah, so we've assumed 2% per year with all the revenues, but those will be reviewed as you move forward. So most likely when you have the wastewater work completed, you can do a review of your connection fees at that time and make sure that they're up to par with your neighboring communities.
yeah, that was actually gonna be my next question, is because I know our connection fees are still sitting around 12,500, and some of our neighboring connection fees are closer to $20,000. So I think we're a little lacking in that department right now. So I would say that we should possibly look into that sooner than later. Yeah. And I guess my other question, comment, concern, you're recommending 8%, which is a lot, but in the situation that we're in with wastewater right now, where we really haven't been putting the proper amount away, is there maybe a hybrid solution to this, where we could put a little bit more away to start, just to try and get some of those reserves built up and then back off to the 8%, or is that kind of flexible in that?
Yeah, so through the mayor, I think, so, this is a forecast based on today's information. I think through the annual budget process, you're going to be able to review the actual cost, review the needs you have. The timing of those capital expenditures might change. So if you can delay the capital expenditures, that can assist, or maybe you get some grant funding for, let's say, the water project. And so that can assist, and then you can reevaluate. And so really you're reevaluating this at the annual budget process. But that is an option, is that you can kind of start saving sooner and then slow it down later. You can hopefully, maybe delay some capital projects and then increase the saving later. You have the flexibility to do that.
Anything further from council? It's a plan. And we have to plan. I think one of the issues, 8% sounds like a lot, but you put it on the chart, the cost to the user. That doesn't sound as onerous as 8%. And we're also faced with, we've had double-digit tax increases here in Dutton Dunwich, and we're not sure where we're coming in this year as well. So that makes anything, aggravates the situation further. So that's why 8% sounds like a lot. Okay, nothing further from council? Okay, well done. Thank you, Daryl.
No. Just moving on to porcelain.
Yeah. Just give me a second here. Everybody good to carry on? Yeah, you got a ball game you want to go to. Or a hockey game, sorry. Okay, our correspondence. Let's deal with that. And the first one is the Corporation of the City of Dryden mandatory water safety training in elementary school curriculum. Anyone wish to comment on that?
If you would indulge
Councillor
me.
Drouillard.
Yeah, I would totally support this. Drowning is the leading cause of preventable death in Canada for children. And I know that some boards have signed on to this. It's been around since about 2006. Some boards have signed on to it. Some boards are partially signed onto it. But I really think that the three components of the Swim to Survive program should be mandatory in school curriculum. It's a very simple program, but it saves lives. So
Anything further from council? I have a question, and Councillor Drouillard, this training, does that involve going to a pool or something, or a hybrid, or can you explain what actually would happen?
it is a hybrid program, so the students will do a certain amount of, and it's not a tremendous amount of time, but they do some in class about water safety, and then they do some pool training. We have done it in the past in Dutton Dunwich. And I think one year when we were under renovation, our students went to Aldeboro or Rodney and did the program. And I don't believe we did it last year, but it's a combination. It's a hybrid for sure.
Okay, thank you. Anything further on that? If not, Randy, do we have a resolution in support of that?
Moved by Drouillard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the City of Dryden calling on the provincial government to incorporate through the Ministry of Education mandatory water safety and swim to survive training into the elementary school curriculum for all Ontario students, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the City of Dryden. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. Item B, Municipality of Brighton, electoral reform. This has been talked about for years. Any comments from council on that one? See none? No comments, so do we have a resolution? Randy, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Municipality of Brighton to call upon the provincial and federal governments to enact electoral reform, adopting proportional systems in which every vote counts and polarization is diminished in order to safeguard and empower Canadian democracy, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the City of Dryden. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. Item C, the Township of Woolwich, a resolution letter Bill C-61 First Nations Clean Water Act. That was in your package, their resolution. Any comments in support or resolution, please?
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Township of Woolwich to 1, call on the Government of Canada and the Minister of Indigenous Services to reintroduce legislations to ensure First Nations have the right to clean and safe drinking water in the fall of 2025 in the same form as Bill C-61. 2, call on the Government of Ontario and the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks to support this important federal legislation, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the Township of Woolwich. All in favor? That's carried.
Thank you. Item D, Township of Bonfield, Canada Post labor dispute. Anyone wish to speak to that? Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of supporting this. I don't think we should insert ourselves in labor relations. Whether we agree with the strike or not, I don't think that's our position here. I think they have a right to do that and a right for negotiation and fair negotiation. So I'm not supporting it personally, just on a personal level.
Any other comments on that one? Councillor Dreyfus?
Through your mayor insight, I'll support, Councillor Pemberton. I'm not in favor of this motion either, so.
Any other comments? Do you have to change the resolution or just? Oh, okay, go ahead, Randy, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Droulard, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Township of Bonfield to, one, urge the Canadian Union of Postal Workers and the federal government to promptly return to the negotiating table, and two, call upon CUPW to reconsider the suspension of flyer deliveries, which includes municipal communications, to ensure that continued dissemination of critical community information, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and the Township of Bonfield. All in favor? And that is defeated.
Item E is a letter from the Solicitor General, OPP cost recovery. I'm sure this. Sorry, I didn't have my mic on. I mean, it's 11%, but what are we gonna do? Nothing?
I'm just wondering, last year we were, our OPP costs were reduced by the province. What's it gonna look like this year? And I'm kind of worried about that because it was reduced a lot. And, you know, I think we thought it was fairer than it should be, but now we're looking at based 11% based on what value? That's the question I have. So it's partially, I'm sure partially some of that was funded by the province in the shortfall. So that'll have to come back somehow, right?
James, correct me if I'm wrong. I think last year's rate was frozen at the previous year's rate. Is that the way they did it? Okay. Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, and I don't know if, thanks, Mayor, through you, I don't know if it's the right time to do it or not, but maybe it's time to start talking to the county and, you know, Elmer has its own police force, St. Thomas has its own police force. If the rates keep going up and up and up and we're paying enough, maybe it's time to do a comparative study and see if we need to have our own police force for Elgin County. I don't know what the cost would be, but I don't think it should be not thought of at some point in time if OPP costs are going to be that significant.
Place to start. Talk to Elmer and St. Thomas. What are their policing costs? Go ahead, Tony.
Through you, your worship, that's something that we can undertake as part of the administration. We can look at other municipalities and bring back a report, a preliminary report of looking at some options available to council for consideration.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ken.
Through you, just reading the letter, it looks like we're going to be 11% over what last year's allocation was. So we're not maybe quite as 11% still a lot, but it's not as bad as we were originally looking at last year. I don't think so. But again, doesn't hurt to look at other options as well.
If it was 11% of a reduced one last year, and they gave us a break, it was 100,000, I think we saved last year on that. So I'm not hearing from the province they're going to do that again. Okay, good discussion. Randy, please.
Moved by Droulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that correspondence item 9E from the Honorable Michael S. Kersner, Solicitor General, be received as filed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Through your mayor, and so just make a comment. This I've spent unusual amount of time in the St. Catharines, Niagara region the last month or so. It's unbelievable the problem that they have. It's in the city of St. Catharines. I was there on the weekend, and they've actually nicknamed the city, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's really pathetic. You see this problem all over the place, but it's not only Niagara, it's Belleville, it's real serious, Picton area. It's just really, really serious. In our own municipality or our region, St. Thomas, and I know this for a fact, through the CEO has said that just in security alone at the St. Thomas Hospital, they have had to increase their security budget by $2 million a year. That's a lot of money. And so the impact on Ontario is having a huge impact on Ontario, and the cost to municipalities is astronomical, to the point where they can't afford infrastructure. And I don't know what the answer is, but a study of some kind, and not just a study, but an action plan has to start kicking in. And well, I guess I will say one thing about St. Thomas. They've done a respectable job in trying to mitigate through organizations and getting the job done. So it does fall back on municipalities. We're just lucky we're in a small region. Like our community's small, and we don't have these social issues. Yet we see it in our Daffodil organization, and Councillor Drulard and I are working with them. Their numbers have increased from an average of 50 clients, what they call clients, to almost 200 a month. So that's significant. That is becoming significant to our municipality and to our local regions. So we have a problem in Ontario, and I don't know what the answer is. This could be a start of it, but I'm fully supportive of something happening here. So.
Sir Drulard.
And just to add to what Councillor Dreyfus was saying, in saying that we don't have a problem, we don't have a visible problem in our community and in our neighboring communities. We're small, it's hidden, but we do, and through different organizations, we are aware that we have a hidden problem currently, but how long does it stay hidden? People are couch surfing, so we have a problem, and I agree with you. There needs to be an action plan.
Okay. Randy, do you have a solution for that?
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from Niagara Region that Niagara Region advocates that the province support a coordinated approach between the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services to address ongoing challenges related to mental health, homelessness, and opioid addiction. Two, that Niagara Region formally advocates for provincial funding to address identified gaps in programs and services contributing to the state of emergency, including affordable housing, supportive housing, addictions treatment, and mental health supports for vulnerable populations. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Andrew Lawton, MP, and Niagara Region. All in favor? And that's carried.
Have another resolution?
Yeah. Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that relevant correspondence was reviewed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, thank you. The consent correspondence, let's break it up into three here. A is, well, they're in front of you. I'm not going to read them all. Does anyone wish to speak to any one of the first five on the consent agenda? Seeing nothing. Item B is the Tri-County Water Board. Any comments on that? Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, The Tri-County Water Board, so these are just the minutes from the previous meeting, but we did have another meeting in between, so just to bring to everybody's attention, they are starting to they're starting to do a study or get some information on becoming a municipal service corporation. We don't have any information on it yet, but it will hopefully allow us to access different funding and be able to apply for grants and stuff like that that we aren't able to apply for right now. So it's just very, very in the infancy stage right now, but it is something we're starting to look at. So we'll have more reports coming as time goes by, but for right now, it's just for information so that you guys are aware that something might be coming.
Okay, thank you. And then the staff monthly reports. I will recognize our CBO Jackie, so if there's anything on her report, she is here and present tonight, so. Any questions? Councillor Drulard.
I just want to kick back to the wastewater. We're operating at this, in this most recent report, at 66% of our design capacity, which is favorable numbers. And I took the time to go back over the last 14 months. And in those 14 months, we've had one overcapacity time and one that was in quite high in the 90s. Both of those correlate with significant rain events. So I would like to make the request again that we do a public education, because although we have been told that infiltration and inflow is not a significant contributor, these numbers tell me something different. Because we've had dry months and it doesn't keep people from flushing the toilet. So I'm going to put that request again, that we do some public education. It's not to catch people doing something wrong. A lot of people probably don't know that their downspouts are going to our waste treatment, or that their sump pumps are going to our waste treatment. We're treating rainwater. I will assert that we are treating rainwater during high rain months. So I'm aware that all plants of this design will get a certain amount of I&I, but I think we are getting a significant amount, and I think people aren't aware. And if they were, they would correct where they can.
Okay. Any comments on that one?
I'll make, could I, through your mayor hands, I'll support Councillor Drulard on that issue. I do know of, through people in the trade, that they have been called into 4 residents in Dutton, that people were concerned that their stormwater was running through the system, and they found that it was, and they've corrected the issue. So how many more are there, as Councillor Drulard said? So I think an education program would help a lot, and raise awareness of how important this is to our municipality and the impact that it's having on our whole system. So.
Can I just say one more thing? The other thing about the 66% is that 500 students and staff are back at Dutton Dunwich Public School flushing the toilet, and we're at 66%. So that really emphasizes that there's something more going on.
Through your worship, that's something we can bring back as part of the administration, a public education and awareness program, something that we can launch right away and provide you with some comments as we go forward with that schedule. So we can do that.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Go ahead.
As a follow-up, I just want to make the point that we've been asking for this for quite a while now, and it needs to be given priority. I also think we need to do some testing. I think smoke testing, we're not going to get all of them, but at least people know we're trying to do something, and that we're serious about it. Because right now, by sitting here And waiting 8 months before we get a education program out is not really very, doesn't make us look very good.
Okay. Anything further on the staff reports? Okay, resolution, please. Randy.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, we'll soldier on. Okay, James, you're up. We have the treasurer's report, the water financial plan, which we've already seen. Do you have anything further to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in regards to the water financial plan, that following council approval and as per regulatory requirements, staff will forward the water financial plan and council resolution to our drinking water operator, Ontario Clean Water Association. We'll then forward it to the province in order to complete our drinking water license renewal application. The report will also be posted on the municipal website. A public notice will be placed in local newspaper advising of its availability online, and the plan will be made available to the members of public upon request. Updates through the municipal's social media channels will further serve to inform the public about the report's release, as well as the municipal's work to ensure the sustainability of the drinking water system and compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act.
Okay. Thank you, James. Any questions or comments from council? You have a resolution on that one, Randy?
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Droulards, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the acting treasurer titled Water Financial Plan number 047301, dated October 8th, 2025 for information, and that council approve the water financial plan number 047301 prepared by Watson and Associates Economists Limited, dated September 24th, 2025. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, and item B is the 2026 budget process and schedule. Everybody's had a chance to see that, but James, you want to comment further on that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it is that time of year again to start thinking about our budget for 2026. On an annual basis, administration provides Dutton Dunwich with a balanced budget under Section 209 of the Municipal Act. The budget provides estimated revenues that are equal to estimated expenditures. A budget is also a financial plan that sets out the planned revenue and expenditures, establishes spending limits, sets funding priorities, and is a basis for financial decision-making. It is a key planning document in achieving Dutton Dunwich's strategic priorities. The operating budget includes normal operating expenditures and revenues associated with day-to-day provision of services, while the capital budget accounts for significant expenditures to acquire, construct, or improve buildings, roads, machinery, and equipment used to provide municipal services with a benefit lasting beyond 1 year. The budget links operational and capital plans, asset management plan, development charges study, and master plans and other documents. It serves as a tool to inform and engage residents and the community. The upcoming 2026 budget will adopt a zero-based budgeting process. This will require each department to justify every expense for the fiscal year rather than relying on historical spending. This process starts with a zero base where all programs and line items must demonstrate their value and necessity to the municipality's goals, forcing a critical review of costs to eliminate inefficiencies and ensure strategic allocation of resources. This requires every dollar to be reevaluated. Programs will be ranked or reviewed against community priorities so council can decide which services are essential and which could be reduced or eliminated. Funds can be redirected to higher priority projects like infrastructure, wastewater, or debt reduction, instead of being locked into historical spending patterns. During the fall, the senior management team and 2 members of council will join an ad hoc temporary budget working group. This group will discuss the development of the 2026 budget in detail and complete a line-by-line budget review. Once a consolidated and cohesive budget package has been completed, it will be presented to council for their review. The budget package will present the funding and priorities for the coming fiscal year. When the budget has met the approval of mayor and council, a budget bylaw is passed. In completing an environmental scan for the 2026 budget, municipalities are still facing ongoing inflation pressures resulting in higher costs for insurance, construction material, and utilities that impact everyday expenses and the cost of major projects. So we have put together a outline here of the development for the 2026 budget. Starting with the capital, we've already let departments know to submit their capital projects to the treasurer the week of September 29th and into the following week, so that on the week of October 13th, the departments and budget committee can meet to review and discuss the draft capital budget. Department staff, we're going to have them present this year at this meeting so that if there's any questions, they can provide the information firsthand. Our plan on the week of October 20th is to refine the draft capital budget as per budget committee recommendations. Following that, the week of October 27th, departments and budget committee will meet once again to finalize a draft capital budget to present to council on November 12th. As far as our operating budget, running along the same weeks, week of September 29th. So we've already distributed the budgets to every department, was being blank for them to build up themselves, except for in regards to wages. Well, the week of October 13th, we should have everything back. So I'll be able to schedule meetings with the treasurer and the CAO to discuss budget requests. Following week, the departments and budget committee will meet to discuss the draft operating budget. Again, we want staff present so that they're able to answer any questions that the committee may have. Week of October 27th, we'll once again refine that draft operating budget as per any recommendations from the budget committee. We will try to hold our open house on the week of November 3rd. So sort of along the same lines that we did last year, one in the afternoon and then one that runs into the evening here at the council chambers. Then the week of November 10th, we will meet again, the budget committee and the departments, to finalize a draft operating budget to present to council on November 26th. It's a very compact and tight deadline, but I think it's very important to have your budget set by the end of the year so that the departments know, and that we can also get out our tendering to hopefully secure better pricing.
Thank you, James. Yeah, it is a tight timeline, but I agree with you. Have it done by the end of the year. So I applaud your efforts on that and the CAO for holding to that timeline. Any questions? Councillor Pemberton.
Yeah, thanks, James, through you, Mayor. Thanks, James, for the report. I guess my question is you said the report talks about a budget committee. Councillor Dreyfus and I sat on the budget committee previously, so I'm assuming that's the same. The only issue I have with that is I happen to be away the week of the 15th to the 24th, which is where you have the committee meetings set up with the budget committee. So as much as I appreciate the tight timeline, I would like to continue to be on that, but if I need to be replaced to keep the time frame, I'm understanding of that as well. But I just, yeah, unfortunately I have previous commitments for that week. So yeah, that's all.
I'll leave it to James and Tony to work around that and whatever they think they have to do. So, Councillor Dreyfus.
We have built an extra, well, there is an extra meeting, I should say, at the end of the year if we need to push anything.
Councillor Dreyfus.
This comes up every year, but I'm just curious, James, how we propose to handle interest groups out in the community that are always in our budget plan. Just as an example, Tyrconnell Heritage society? Do we ask for financials? Do we, what approach are we going to take? And not just one organization, because I know we have a lump sum of money every year that we're trying to determine how those funds are going to be allocated or if they're going to be allocated. So I'm just wondering about the process of how we would handle those situations. Do we give them the opportunity to speak to us, or do we just make an internal decision on how what approach we're going to take?
So we do have our grant program available again. We'll follow the same process as last year. One is for the in-kind donations and one is for monetary donations. So we do ask for over a certain dollar limit. We do ask for the financials to be submitted with the application.
With this tighter budget timeline, what is the date in the past that they have submitted their request? I'm just wondering if some won't have the opportunity to submit the request. That's my only concern. And if so, we'll just let them know it has to be in by this time.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I believe it was around November of last year, if I remember right. I know in past budgets, and maybe not particular in Dutton Dunwich, but there has been a percentage of the levy that's been allocated for grants. I don't know if that's something that we may look at this year.
Yeah, through you, your worship, what we can do after tonight's meeting, we can notify, put a notice out to those organizations with some timelines as well, so they'll be aware of when we do expect that back and give us time to review the document. So after tonight's meeting, we'll send that notification out.
And just for clarification, that will be both for financial and in kind. You'll ask for those all at the same time. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, anything further on the budget process and schedule? Resolution, please, Randy.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dryfout, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich approve the report of the acting treasurer titled 2026 Budget Process and Schedule, dated October 8th, 2025, for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, and you have another one, the water and wastewater rate study. James.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to follow up with the presentation by Watson Associates, staff is recommending that council approve an 8% increase for the 2026 water rates and a 5% increase for the 2026 wastewater rates. As you've seen, this increase will put us right in the middle of our neighboring municipalities. Only results in about $100 increase for the total year to a homeowner. Average homeowner using about 170 cubic meters. Any future rate increases we would bring forward with the user fee bylaws updates.
Okay, council. Resolution, please.
Moved by Dryfout, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the acting treasurer titled 2025 Water and Wastewater Rate Study, dated October 8th, 2025, for information, and that council approves an 8% increase for 2026 water rates and a 5% increase for 2026 wastewater rates, and that the new rates will be effective January 1st, 2026. All in favor? That's carried.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have our CAO's report. Tony, take it away.
Thank you. Through you, your worship. The next report speaks to the ongoing discussion on our wastewater proposed solution. We have a recommendation for the tendering of the clarifier to Napier Red Limited in the amount of $449,000 plus HST, as well as additional work that's required as part of the Consolidated Linear Infrastructure Environmental Compliance Approvals, CLI for short, to Dillon Consulting for 112,000 plus HST. The background information, council will be aware of some of the things that have what brought us here today. As part of Dillon's due diligence, they did issue tender documents. Two were received. One was from West Tech Engineering and with a delivery date of 26 to 28 weeks. And the second is Napier Red Limited with a quote of 449,000 plus HST. The difference in price is approximately 65,864. West Tech had the lower amount. And as part of our requirements under our purchasing policy, section 23D requires us to inform council that we're not recommending the lowest bidder. The reasoning why we're not recommending is the better timelines. Given the seriousness of our wastewater situation, every day, every week is important to us. So we felt that this is an important requirement and is why we're requesting Napier Red Limited. The second point is with regards to our environmental compliance approval, and this CLI is required that we need to ensure that all this upgrades and design changes are completed. And also the ministry will be receiving this information to ensure that they're aware of all the changes that are being done. Any questions at this point?
Councillor Dreyfus.
Through you, Mayor, hence, thank you for the report. Just a quick question though, what assurances that the 18 to 20 weeks will be made versus the $65,000 cost? Is it written in the tender contract? And what assurances do we have? So.
They did provide us with a quote. However, there is a qualifier, as you say. The price is indicated that is subject to potential U.S. tariffs on imported materials used in manufacturing system. So there could be some delays that it's outside their control. It's outside our control. However, we feel that given the time that they're identifying is a reasonable amount of time to provide the clarifier.
Ken?
And I guess maybe through you, Mr. Mayor, and maybe this can go to Jason. I see he's online there. How did this price turn out with our original tender estimate, and how much do you think the installation of this material we're buying will cost?
Jason, did you hear that?
Yes, I did, Mr. Mayor. I can, this was in line with our previous estimate that we had provided. And I can also confirm that I don't know the exact amount. The details, Tony, are in the supplier's agreement, but there are penalties if they basically don't hit the deadline that they've committed to. So that presumably there would be penalties, and that $61,000 difference would get a lot, would shrink. And they've also committed to providing it much sooner. So that's where we're at. And then I guess the total cost of the clarifier and installation, I think as provided in the last council meeting, there was a report there that talked about the cost of the pumping station, the force main, and the clarifier upgrades. I think that was the 6.7 total. So that's all adds up to the 6.7. It's included in that.
One other quick follow-up. I think part of the plan upgrade is the replacement of the RAS pumps. Is that something we could order ahead of time too? Or is there a long period of waiting to get those?
There is, and so just for council's information, we're intending to pending your approval this evening, we're pending to put this out to tender by the end of the week. using Elgin County's purchasing department. So they'll be using, like, we're gonna provide out them all the information, and the package will be uploaded to bids and tenders available to GCs. We'll be scheduling a mandatory site meeting for all GCs along with Archie in a couple of weeks. And the idea is hopefully the tender will close in about 4 weeks, which will give us time to write a recommendation letter to be presented at the first council meeting in November, with the goal of expediting a kickoff meeting with that GC and basically having a startup meeting right away and discussing all the long lead items that we essentially want to get shop drawings for to approve and get ordered immediately. And yes, the pumps are one of the main items that would be a longer lead item that would be on that list.
Anything further from council? A quick question from Jason. We get the equipment of the clarifier and they are prepared to start immediately, and I'm talking through the winter of an installation.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, they basically it's a custom thing that they have to build from scratch, within their plant. And then basically it's provided based on their delivery next spring. And then through coordination with the general contractor, it gets installed in the existing concrete tank.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives for information the report from the Chief Administrative Officer titled Dutton Dunwich Pumping Station Clarifier Equipment Tender Results, and that council approve the purchase of pumping station clarifier equipment tender provided by Napier Red Limited in the amount of $449,000 plus HST to be charged to the sewer reserve, and that council approve the professional services for Dutton Dunwich's Municipal Consolidated Linear Infrastructure Environmental Compliance Approvals, CLI, ECA number 047W601, engineering support provided by Dillon Consulting in the amount of $112,000 plus HST to be charged to the sewer reserve. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you,
Thank you,
council.
Jason.
Yep. Thank you very much. Good evening.
Any other staff reports? Nothing? Any unfinished business? Seeing none? Any new business? Councilor Pemberton.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to just put a motion out that we have a quick discussion about our delegation earlier this evening. It seemed like you wanted some sort of resolution this evening of some sort or some direction, so I'd like to put a motion forward that we have a quick discussion about that and come up with an idea on how to move forward or direction for staff to move forward.
Okay, any of you wish to comment on that one?
Through your worship, thank you for the opportunity. Council wants to have a discussion on that. There are some various options available to council, directing administration to come back with a report identifying our recommendation of how and what type of exemptions that could qualify, and it would be council's prerogative and decision to make those. And however, if council would like to make a decision today, I would probably defer that to the clerk, acting clerk, to comment on that process.
Thank you. So if you would like to make that resolution today, I would need a person to forward and a person to second the resolution. I have a resolution prepared. So it would be that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich releases the remaining 2 construction lots on Bow Place in exchange for the freezing of 2 occupancy permits, and that council directs the chief building official to release the freeze once improvements to the wastewater system are completed.
I'm okay with that. I think we just need to add a little bit of language in there that we have an agreement drafted, or Sandy has an agreement, the property owner has an agreement drafted for our legal team to review and approve prior to the issuance of that. But give the staff authority once that's been reviewed and approved to move forward with it.
So are you moving that?
All of that.
Okay, we have a seconder. Any further discussion? The only point I'll make is there is more information forthcoming
Mhm.
on all of this. So, Councillor Dreyfus.
I think this is a fair resolution for the houses. You know, in the building world that Sandy lives in, time is of essence. And if he loses that opportunity, well, it's an opportunity that's gone. And I don't think we should stand in the way of that, especially if he has something to give back to us. So I'm perfectly fine with this resolution that's on the floor, and I think it's fair. Beyond additional building permits, I think we have to be careful. We need to do more study on that, simply because we have others that are looking for the same thing. So I think everybody would understand that. Not trying to stonewall anything, but I think this is a fair resolution that council isn't going to put themselves in harm's way here. So.
Fair statement. There's others in this, similar position. So we have to be careful. We have to, there is some risk. So council needs to be aware of that. Okay, any further discussion? We have a resolution on the floor, and Randy, ask the question.
Yes, so that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich releases the remaining 2 construction lots on Bow Place in exchange for the freezing of 2 occupancy permits, and that council directs the chief building official to release the freeze once improvements to the wastewater system are completed, provided an agreement with the developer is approved by council.
Yeah, sorry, I guess I would just say approved by staff.
By staff, right? Okay.
I just make one more comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Just to be clear for the general public, these are homes that are already built that he has for sale, and he's been sitting on these properties with no occupancy. But we have they have connections.
They are connected.
They're connected already. The only reason why we don't have occupancy is because they're not sold. Is that the reason? But they could technically be sold tomorrow. So because we're in that situation, we would have connected, or we would have allowed them to have occupancy regardless. If I understand it right. So I don't think there's risk here.
There's always risk. I'm gonna just ask Jackie, please comment. And remember, we don't want to put our staff in an awkward position as well. So I hope that doesn't do that for you, Jackie, but go ahead.
Yeah, the lots or the houses that are complete construction wise have not been inspected for occupancy or granted an occupancy permit, which is required before anyone can live in those buildings. So under a conditional permit agreement or an agreement of some kind that we draft to make sure that he doesn't sell and use the 2 of the lots that he chooses to not sell, that's where the swap or the exchange and wastewater flow would be, for instance.
Okay. Everybody clear what resolution before us? Counselor
I
Drew.
just have one quick question. We're doing this pending that legal agreement. Do we have to designate the authority to our CAO to do that without an approval through council, or are we covered?
My opinion, and it doesn't have to come to council, but Tony?
Through you, your worship, once the approval is provided tonight, it gives me the delegated authority then to execute the agreement.
Yeah, that's just what I needed to
Yeah.
know. I just wanted to
And-
make
and-
sure that we were protecting.
And
our
also,
staff.
yeah, and
Thank you.
also subject to the approval of the CBO as well. So I have to ensure the CBO is also recognized in this process.
Is everyone clear on the resolution? Want it read again? Randy, if you could.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich releases the remaining 2 construction lots on Bow Place in exchange for the freezing of 2 occupancy permits, and that council directs the chief building official to release the freeze once improvements to the wastewater system are completed, provided an agreement with the developer is approved by staff. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. On to announcements. I have one, and I just want to publicly acknowledge what a terrific Wallstown Fair we had. I also want to recognize the role that the municipality always plays with in-kind stuff. Our fire department was out there doing their thing a number of times in the demo derby, and I believe they were at tractor pull as well. Murray volunteered his time. I saw him at the tractor pull, pulling around the packer. So they need to be recognized for what they've done, and I think I just can't say enough about that fair. What a terrific weekend that was. I know it's weather dependent, but
Hey, Mike, can I interject real quick? I know you don't let the public speak too much.
is this Kelsey,
It is.
the president of Wallstown Ag Society?
It is. So it kind of goes
You
in
go right
line, so
ahead.
I do apologize to the other public members that don't quite allow this, but I would like to extend as well all the hard work that the roads department, the public works department, water, parks and rec, and the council for the in-kind. We definitely can't do it without the help that you guys give us. And a big shout out to the board and the volunteers that we have with us as well. It takes a community to run this event, and we're very thankful to all those that help in some way to create the fair that we do. It went very well, and as always, thank you, and thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you, Kelsey, for all you do. Now, are you going to be past president, or are you doing it again?
Yet to be decided.
Okay, thank you. Are there anything to do with them?
No.
Okay, we're going to take a short break as Randy gets us into a closed session. So everybody that joining us, thank you, and that'll be the end of the evening.
I'm just gonna do the resolution.
Yeah. Let's get us there.
Okay. Moved by Pemberton.
There you go. It's probably thanks, everyone.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Droulard, that the council for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich now moves into a closed session of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 6:39 p.m. in accordance with section 239(2) of the Municipal Act SO 2001 C25 for discussion of the following matters. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purchase, S 239(2)F of the Municipal Act, interim control bylaw. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, anybody need a couple minutes?
Moved by Drewlard, seconded by Pemberton, that the council for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich hereby comes out of the closed session of the meeting at 7:26 PM and the regular meeting reconvenes. All in favor? That's carried.
Okay, and confirm proceedings.
That the new resolution coming on council. You guys can do that.
To come out.
No.
Pardon?
Coming on council, just have already closed.
Yeah, I think it's just two versions.
Yeah.
I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think we have a resolution.
No.
There's no change fraction.
So do we need a resolution for staff to,
No,
No,
just
thank
to
you.
direct staff, yeah.
okay, we're good. All right, confirm proceedings, please, Randy.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that bylaw 2025-46 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And
Thank
that's
you.
carried.
And there's our future meetings. Sorry, you're missing next. Okay. What about? And the last one, Randy, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich closes at 7:28 PM. All in favor? That's carried.
Okay,
We have a draft.
No,
I'm gonna keep it, I want it conditional. I'm gonna look.